Hello, beautiful souls, and I am so excited once again to be doing these celebrity natal charts of somebody that I think is really cool. As I have always said that I love Sagittariuses, but I'm just like, you know, uh, reaffirming that there are more Sagittariuses that I love other than just Jimi Hendrix and Bette Midler and Jim Morrison. Today, we're going to be looking at the natal chart of Little Richard. But I also love Little Richard. But I also want to mention that some honorable mention people that I wanted to do for the Sagittarius Rising Aries is Sammy Davis Jr. And then it is also said on astrotheme.com versus Astro Charts that Billie Eilish also is said to have the Rising Aries, which she is my Rising Pisces video. I'm not going to redo it. But I don't think that that's like such a like mistake. You know what I mean? Like Aries, Pisces, they're right next to each other. So whether she has a rising Pisces or rising Aries, she's still Billie Eilish, and nothing will ever take that away from her, right? And then Little Richard, I was apprehensive. Well, he's December 5th too, just like Walt Disney, born Macon, Georgia, United States. But he does not have rising sign information on astro charts. But I think he did on Astro Theme, and it said that he had the rising Aries. And even with the right, and I was like, oh well, this will sort of be. I wanted to do Samuel Jackson, and I was like, well, this would be sort of similar to the Flavor Flav video, where it's like if you don't have accurate birth time information or your rising sign. So it's sort of like a combination of like supposed rising Aries and supposed not knowing what the rising sign is in general. And a lot of African American celebrities on this website don't have rising sign information, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. But I want to talk about Little Richard because I love Little Richard. Um, Richard Wayne Penniman, born December 5th, 1932, known by his stage name Little Richard, is an American recording artist, songwriter, and musician. He has been an influential figure in popular music and culture for over 6 decades. Penniman's most celebrated work dates from the mid 1950s, where his dynamic music and charismatic showmanship laid the foundation for rock and roll. Like, exactly. Like literally everybody's Little Richard. All the commercials from Taco Bell to Wendy's in the 90s were Little Richards, like his piano riffs, everything about him. Like every musician is Little Richard, like Little Nas X being gay, Little Richard. Miley Cyrus being exciting, Little Richard. Being from the country, Little Richard. To the fact that, as a joke, every SoundCloud rapper's name is what? Like Little this, Little that, Little Xan, Little Richard. Like he is music, he is pop music, wearing makeup, doing drag, not being gay anymore. Like every artist is literally just a parody and a play on Little Richard. And I would swear on a stack of Bibles about that. And it was like almost like crazy, because I accidentally did 13 videos for Capricorn because I was like, Muhammad Ali's spirit wants me to do this natal chart reading. He's like, how dare you talk about celebrities and not mention me? And I think like with a Sagittarius, I'm always like Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison. No, Little Richard, Little Richard. Jimi Hendrix having the courage to wear a blouse on stage, Little Richard. Eddie Murphy, parroting his songs at Saturday Night Live, Little Richard. Like there is no discussion about rock and roll, about popular music, about hair and makeup and drag and nothing without Little Richard. So we're talking about him. And then also with the rising Aries, it is sort of like, you have rising Aries. You have Aries in the first house, you have Taurus in the second house, you have Gemini in the third house, and you have Cancer in the fourth house because that's how it goes, right? So I think it would be really easy to do a chart of him where it's like we don't have his rising sign information, or just assume that he has a rising Aries because it goes along with the astrological wheel. He's born, let's see, it says 1932. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe this has 1901, and we can find out. No, it does not. I'm like, Walt Disney is so old. My little lunar zodiac calendar doesn't even have his birthday on there. But I guess I would be able to tell, like, if I knew math, like, just the whatever. But I'd like for it to be, like, in my face. And for me to not have to do math. So what it says, 1935, 1935. Got 1946, 1945, 1944. He might be a little bit too old for my chart too. Oh, 1939, 1938, 1937, 1936. I think my thing might start in 1936 with the year of the rat. So he might be a pig. Or, no, 1937 or 1940s. Yeah, I think he might be a pig. And then I want to say, because I'm trying to, like, not use Google, and I don't give any money to Wikipedia, so I'm trying to rely on my brain a little bit. I'm going to say, and probably be, like, super wrong, that I want to say that Walt Disney is a snake, and I want to say that Little Richard is a rat. Okay, cool. He's a snake and a rat. Love the lunar zodiac. Okay, so he has the rising Aries, where he also has in his first house. So his father, his connection to his father is probably a very angry connection, or had like a very mean father. But he also has Uranus in his first house as well of Aries, saying that his father probably broke down a lot of boundaries for him. So even if your dad like kicked you out of the house when you were like 8 years old, that is him also like giving, like, it's like a bird. It's like, well, you don't know how to fly. I'm gonna kick you out of the nest, and baby, you better flap them wings before you hit the ground. And I guess he did. He soared like an eagle. Uranus and Aquarius are associated with large winged birds like the albatross, birds and eagles, and birds that cross over water, and kingfishers. Is that a bird or a fish? Um, Maybe he liked bird watching, like slower times in the past. Angry connection to the father. I mean, and it's painful to say that just because somebody's wearing makeup or trying to lighten their skin that they hate their dad or they hate their father's culture. Especially growing up in like the racist world that was most likely Macon, Georgia, and America and the United States and Earth. At the time that he was around. So for him, he talks about it too. He's like, I paint my skin real light and I act gay so that, white people won't find me threatening. And then I can go in there. I'm little Richard. I'm not big Richard. I'm not big bad Richard that's going to steal your wife. Or, I'm little Richard and I'm just playing the piano. You don't have to worry about me sleeping with your wife, which you probably did. I'm gay. I'm not sleeping with your wife. You're not gay. Trying to sleep with my wife. So, I mean, but also, like I say, Sagittarius, F word king. Um, he has the second house in Taurus, meaning that having stable finances, not just buying the farm and dying should be his greatest priority, but literally buying land and buying a farm should be his greatest priority. And maybe, he got like really into the Black Panthers and Black prosperity because he has Chiron in Taurus too. So, maybe he struggled with his finances in ways that, Little Richard doing a commercial for Taco Bell, giving them a lot of money, but maybe not giving himself a lot of money. And then also Chiron in Taurus talks about struggling with his weight, which it's like, maybe he was able to help a lot of other people slim down, or maybe he had a workout video, you never know, in ways that he wasn't able to help himself with buying property, just like, don't sell that farm, like I wish I had a farm. I wish my daddy left me a farm, so like don't sell your farm. Keep your land, keep your property. And they're like, oh, what do you know? You don't have any land, you don't have any property. I'm not gonna listen to you, old jazz singing man. Um, the third house in Gemini, so he talked and he sang real good and he's real beautiful to listen to. Um, the environment in which he grew up in. Maybe he grew up around like a lot of his, like maybe, grew up around the schoolhouse and, entertained his friends and family, had a lot of cousins, lived real close by to his family. His childhood seems good, like third house in Gemini, fourth house in Cancer, loving mother, very nurturing, probably stole her makeup, so they can do the rock and roll. And it's like him stealing makeup to do rock and roll, like who is he imitating? You know, like Chuck Berry or something, or Mozart. Like, you know, he's born freaking 1932, and so he's like the first one to do it. Like I'm telling you, like he probably says this a lot too. He's like, I am rock and roll. Like literally, it shouldn't even be called rock and roll. It should be called Little Richard. Like that piano riff and like the everything. All music is Little Richard, the mother of music, man. Little Richard, the mommy and the daddy of music. That should be like screw everybody, you know, like screw Michael Jackson, screw Elton John. That's not even his name. His name's like something crappy. And like screw Freddie Mercury, screw Little Nas X, screw Jay-Z, screw Miley Cyrus, Little Richard. Like make a flag, make a big pink American flag of Little Richard. 4,000 Cancer, very loving mother, very upset by his mother's death because he also has Pluto in Cancer as well. So like the James Hong video, it's like lived his whole life in fear of his mother dying, mother dies, lives his whole life in sadness, you know. He has the fifth house in Leo, so his biggest hurdle and his obstacle is like standing up for his fame and being like, hey, I'm famous. I invented rock and roll. I'm Little Richard. Let me in here, you know? Give me an award. Give me all the awards. Like you would have nothing. You would like Michael Jackson would never be able to be the trans queen that he was and the fake Elizabeth Taylor that he was and maybe still is if he's still alive. Without Little Richard, like no one would have accepted the femme queen or the femme king, like Prince and like Michael Jackson, without Little Richard being like gay is okay. Um, and he probably lost his hair, thinning hair, and wigs and whatever. Like he is like RuPaul, like he is everything, everybody. He is the queen. He is the king. And then he has the sixth house in what sign? What sign is his sixth house in? It's Virgo because he is the rising Aries. Where he also has Jupiter and Neptune and Mars. So my theory about Jupiter and Virgo, which I hope is not true, is that like they work very like menial jobs, like as clerks, and it brings them a lot of luck and fortune. My theory around the sign of Neptune is that a Virgo is a Virgo or a conservative person, or from him being conservative, brings him a lot of good luck and fortune, but also is how we got into television, into movies. And then he has Mars in Virgo, so he's actually a very conservative, shy guy. And I think like everything that he did was like his father pushing him out of the nest and being like, okay, well, you know, I got to appeal to these white people and I got to make these white girls dance so they give me money and book me for shows, and I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And I sort of remember his discovery story. I remember watching like an interview and they were saying that he was just like playing the piano in a train station in Macon, Georgia, and he was discovered almost like a garage band, which is maybe true, maybe false, maybe marketing. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe that was Ray Charles. You know, I don't know. But even for the fact that he didn't have to be a magical blind singing black man is like plurific, honorific, amazing, substantial, great, not getting enough praise with the fifth house in Leo. Like we need to praise him like we should Fatboy Slim, because all music is Little Richard. And I just put that connection about the SoundCloud rappers together right now. I'm like, oh yeah, like to the extent that like little Xan and little Ban and little Trash Can from SoundCloud are all calling themselves Little because Little Richard used to call himself Little. Like I don't think there's any other like Frankie Lyman wasn't Little Frankie. Michael Jackson wasn't Little Michael. I don't know anybody else, you know. Aretha Franklin wasn't Little Aretha. That was, it's like a gay thing, you know? Or it is gay, you know? So the Jupiter and Virgo is about him working at the train station, or he was like washing dishes at a restaurant somewhere and they heard him singing or something like that. Which then begat him being lucky and fortunate and being on TV. And then so his seventh house is in Libra because he has the rising Aries, saying that Libra would be a really good match for him romantically. Because if he's angry and aggressive at his dad, a Libra will take a smack or two for love, anything for love. Um, his eighth house is in Scorpio, so he's very psychic, he's very powerful, he's very intuitive, but frustrated because he has that fifth house in Leo and nobody's trying to treat him to the star that he is. And he even has the same birthday as Walt Disney. So as Walt Disney is the granddaddy of cartoons and, begat Bosco and Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and somehow Leon Schlesinger and Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny and all that stuff, which, like I said about like Gwen Stefani and Save Ferris, like one day every woman that has ever done ska will be labeled as No Doubt and Gwen Stefani, and one day every cartoon, every American style cartoon that's a animal with gloves on will one day be a Walt Disney cartoon, even Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes. Unfortunate, maybe one day every singer with the first name Little will be Little Richard, and maybe they'll rename rap music and rock and roll to like Little Richard music. He's over there making that Little Richard music. And he also has Venus in Scorpio, so he might have been in love with a psychic or in love with psychics, or found their powers very attractive because he's like, how do I get people to give me the praise and the adoration that I need? Because it is like the thing too, where it's like people probably don't even listen to Little Richard anymore because it's like corny at this point. It's like, it's like too good. Like, he's too good looking. This music's too good. Like, it's just like corny. It's like, sometimes maybe you want to listen to like an accordion or something bad just to like put into contrast to like, you can't eat sugar all day. And it's sweet, and he's sweet, and he's gay, and it's like, I want a little bit of sugar in my coffee, I want a little bit of sugar in my tea, but sometimes you need salt to balance things out, and maybe all the other performers are salt. Cool. So that's the 8th house in Scorpio. He has the 9th house in Sagittarius. I don't believe he went to college, but maybe he got some type of education later in life. Maybe he was born with the education. What is education in the 1930s, So maybe he was born with a lot of ancestral knowledge and ancestors guiding him. Maybe he even sang like one of his ancestors because he has Mercury in his 9th house as well. So maybe he had a guiding spirit. Maybe a Native American shaman. Like everybody in America is a dime store Indian, has a dime store Indian lineage. But maybe he had an actual Native American ancestor that was like helping him carrying the torch and singing torch songs and doing the ghost dance. Like maybe that piano riff is accredited to a Native American and he heard it one day and he used it. So maybe he stole a little something something, but whatever. Put a little sugar on it. Make it your own. And he has the 10th house in Capricorn, so it is his destiny to be famous, to be a writer, to be magnanimous and superfluous and grandiose and great, and Little Richard. Yeah, okay, and then just looking over his chart again, and he has a 11th house in Aquarius, so he struggled with technology, he struggled with the future. He also has the planet Saturn in Aquarius, so he struggled making friends, which probably made him so unique in Macon, Georgia. Being a loner, being isolated, looking at his 12th house in Pisces, and moon in Pisces. Crazy. Famous for by another name, and Richard Wayne Pennyman. I guess I'd want to be known as Little Richard too, but Little Wayne, maybe he's already reincarnated and his spirit is like, helping out other people, like, Little Wayne, who's also from the South and is gay with Birdman. So I don't like to rush. Aries are impatient. I don't want to rush through his chart because my laptop battery is dying and I need to go charge it. And I want to upload all these videos because he's the last video in this series. And I don't want to rush over him or, not talk about him feeling like a loner and like an outcast. And the moon in Pisces, probably crying all the time, crying over his dead mama and his grandmama and no one believes he's Native American. He's got Indian blood in him and He goes up to the north and like, oh, you're not from Georgia, you're from New York, you're from Chicago, and well, I'm from Chicago, you're not from Chicago, you're from a farm. Like nobody believes him for nothing. Um, and I don't want to gloss over the fact that he has the 10,000 Capricorn. And people try to mess with his reputation, and like I said, struggling to make friends and not having good friends is friends trying to sabotage him, and him having a really deep connection to God. And I think later in life he tried to rectify, not even rectify, but like explain why he had to go through these toxic behaviors and why he was painting his skin so light and acting gayer than he was to be appealing to people and the struggles that he had. And I think a lot of people gloss over Little Richard because it's an ugly part of our history that he was trying to put makeup on. Like he was like, I'm a black man, I'm dark skinned, and I'm talented, but they won't even listen to me unless I paint my skin more fair. And people have to wake up with that fact. They're like, yeah, like he had a lot of good things to say, and I wasn't willing to listen to him until he put makeup on. And I think RuPaul goes through the same thing. I think that's RuPaul's biggest struggle, and I think he tries to talk to people about it. And it's like nobody likes me when I look like somebody named Simon and a dork and the stupid suits that he wore for so many seasons and that stupid face bikini. Like, what was that? And RuPaul's pretty light skinned. And he's like, I had to dress up like a girl for people to like me. And he feels weird about it. You know what I mean? Like, he talks about it. He's very open about it, talking to his therapist. And he's like having the courage to go on to do a talk show in drag where he has Little Kim and everybody else, has every great person as a guest host, and he's like 80 feet tall and making everybody look crazy and taking all the air out of the room. And then he tries to do a talk show where he's addressed as a man and who he's supposed to be, and nobody likes it. So the same thing with Little Richard. And it's like, I'm pretty sure if Little Richard in the 1960s were to get on TV and talk about God and the Black Panthers and things that matter, and if he were to keep it real, then I wouldn't be sitting here doing Little Richard's natal chart talking about how Billie Eilish might be the next Little Richard. And I'm actually recording over the Billie Eilish video that I did. So Billie Eilish and Miley Cyrus are going to be great people, are already great people. Walt Disney, great guy. Little Richard, the mother of music, the mother of modern music. Like, I feel like doing like a like the not the eulogy, but the ululating, that like Muslim, like that Muslim chant, like literally praise him, like praise Little Richard. Like, he carved the way and the path for so many people. I'm not involved in the music industry. I don't care from Little Richard's. He didn't. He wasn't little Walter Mercado. Little Walt Disney Mercado, who I think Walter Mercado is March 5th. So, and 5 is the Hierophant. 5 is like the God sign. It is the Pope. It is the Little Richard. It is the Walt Disney of the industry. So I just think people need to praise his spirit a little bit more. They need to talk to his spirit. They need to seek guidance and mediumship from Little Richard, because he knows how to do it. He knows how to put sugar on it. He knows how to put salt on it. Honey, he knows how to put cocaine on it, all right? So the Lord be praised. Little Richard be praised. Thank you so much for listening to this celebrity natal chart series about Sagittarius and the Sagittarius rising, because it's the last one of those that I'm doing. I love you, Little Richard. Thank you so much for everything you've done for the world and society, and for all the little gay Pisces and all the little F-word Sagittariuses and all the little boys from Macon, Georgia and Virginia and America who thought they weren't going to make it, and you gave them a way out. And thank you, listener, for liking and sharing and subscribing and finding your best friend who's born December 5th or that has a Sagittarius rising Aries, to show them that their life should not be glossed over, and that they are special and they are worthy of praise. And thank you for listening to my video, and liking and sharing, subscribing. I will see you in the next one, where we're going to talk about Scorpio and people with Scorpio, different rising signs in Scorpio. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.